Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Delivering Dunamis podcast, where we are inspiring transformation through the strength and the power of the Almighty. My name is Matthew Deibler, and I'm your host. This is my first recording following the loss of my best friend, my father, who passed away on Thursday, April the 1st. It was a devastating loss. I didn't see it coming. My dad was 72 years old. And to me, he was Superman. Nothing really ever held Dad down. He never was sick for long. Never had any type of prolonged illness. I never feared about losing him. I anticipated that I'd have him at least another decade, maybe two. And he was a huge part of my life. Someone that I spoke to every single day. For those of you who know me, you know the type of relationship that I had with my father. It was very unique, very special. I shared everything with him. Everything, even the darkest things. You see, my dad was my rock. He was the person that I could turn to in the midst of any season of life. It didn't matter if it was, the chaos of mental illness. He was there. Non-judgmental. He was always a willing ear. He didn't try and overdo it with advice. He didn't try and solve issues that he couldn't completely understand. He was just there. Always. And outside of my dark seasons, we just had so many wonderful times together. Whether that was, through sports, we're very, very connected there. Ever since I was a little kid, my dad coached me, and we spent a lot of time playing catch. I have so many good memories with him. I'm fortunate. I'm blessed. Not many people have the type of relationship with their father that I've had. We had the opportunity to travel the country together. I did hikes in the Rocky Mountains with him multiple times. We literally drove from Pennsylvania to California together and back. We had some really wonderful experiences that could never be duplicated. So many laughs, so many great conversations about life, about relationships, about faith. I'm going to miss him. Today, the message that I wanted to share with you relates to something that my dad committed himself to every single day of his life, and something that he worked to instill in my life as well. My dad, he had this saying that he would often reference. He would tell me, when you wake up in the morning, you've got two choices. And whichever choice that you make, well, that's going to impact the rest of your day in a significant manner. He said you can receive the day with a good morning, God, or you can receive it with a good God morning. My dad was really good about being intentional the way he started, about filling his mind and his heart with positivity, with gratitude, with faith from the moment that he opened his eyes, because he recognized that the way I start, well, it has a whole lot to do with how I wind up finishing. When my father passed, my mom and my sister came to me and they asked, "Do you know what Dad's favorite Bible verse was?" My dad and I had many conversations about scripture over the years. We shared many verses with each other. When they first asked, I thought, boy, it'd be hard to narrow it down. There were so many that he loved. And then I recognized why they were asking, because this verse, it would be on the front or inside of the memorial brochure where we came together to celebrate his life. So it was important. I wanted to choose the right words. And what I landed on was from Psalm 118, verse 24. This is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. The reason that I chose this is because it really connected with this experience that I had shared with my dad each morning for many, many years. This good morning, God connection. This is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Powerful. Embrace the opportunity that lies ahead. Receive the gift of life. My dad was really good at encouraging me to begin with this mindset every 24 hours. For years, my father would send me inspirational quotes each morning. Oftentimes, They were arriving on my phone before I was even awake. My dad liked to get up pretty early. He was excited to start the day. And they weren't always quotes, sometimes they were pieces of scripture. Sometimes they included an image. Sometimes there was a video. But without fail, almost every morning for years, he showed up. He honored that commitment, and I never asked for it. He just recognized its importance. And so he never wavered. I was thinking back, and I spoke about this at my dad's memorial. I was thinking back to high school when I was playing football on Friday nights. And I was fortunate to be pretty gifted as a quarterback. I had some success. And my dad was always just this beautiful, motivational force behind everything that I did. Because while I had some athletic talent, things weren't easy by any stretch of the imagination. We didn't have the perfect team. We didn't have all of the tremendous resources. We were a small school from a rural community. There were weeks where we were outmatched. But my dad had this ability to, inspire people. And I, as his son, I was just blessed to be around him because I never felt like I was out of the fight. And I loved that underdog mentality. And he was really good at drawing it out of me. But what I wanted to share was on Friday mornings when I would arrive at the breakfast table, when I would make my way downstairs, and my dad had already been up for, I don't know, an hour or two. There would be an envelope waiting there, have my name written on the outside of it, and be sealed. I'd take that envelope with me to school. I'd put it in my backpack, and then I'd often wait until I got into the locker room that afternoon before we got dressed for game day. And I'd sit on the bench and I would read. I would read the inspirational words that my dad had put together for me that night. And I often found myself in tears. He just had an amazing way to get into your heart and draw the best out of you. My dad also was good about establishing a foundation of gratitude in my life. That gratitude was something that he turned to with each new dawn. And it was something he wanted me to embrace as well. And when I began experiencing panic and anxiety, it started my sophomore year of college. My dad invited me to build out a seeds list. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of this. It's called seeds and weeds. Seeds are things that you're thankful for. They're positive things in your life. They're talents, gifts that you possess, qualities that are meaningful. The weeds, they're things that we want to get rid of. Negative influences, things from the outside, lies of the enemy. We write down the weeds and then we toss them. The seeds we keep and we revisit them each day to remind ourselves of all that we have to be thankful for, all of the blessings that exist in our life. My dad, because he knew that I was in a vulnerable place and he recognized that it was hard for me to see my way through that darkness. Well, he took it upon himself to write me a list of about 35 or 40 seeds. And that meant so much to me. In fact, the email that he sent, it was dated, I believe, September 12th, 2002. I printed it out that day and I kept it with me for almost 2 decades. I still have it. I folded it up and I put it in my wallet and I carried it with me everywhere I went. And for a long time, I would revisit it each morning. A foundation of gratitude. My dad was really good at starting the day right. And, he loved the beginning of a new day. My dad was a pretty avid outdoorsman. He liked to hunt, but his motivation wasn't the kill. He really just liked being outdoors. One of the things that he really enjoyed the most was being in the woods at daybreak. He loved watching the world around him, nature, God's creation. He loved watching it come alive. He loved the sounds. He loved the sights. He loved the smell of the outdoors. In a way, it was like church for my father. It was a way of connecting with God on a more intimate level. I often wonder what types of conversations he had with God in those woods. What kind of prayers were said? What kind of revelations came over him? Dawn is such a powerful time. And it was just, it was a big deal to my dad. Again, starting the day right. Good morning, God. Thank you. Over the last 12 months, I've had a pretty massive transformation spiritually. And it's led to some pretty phenomenal opportunities. God has opened doors for me, and sometimes I just have to stop and kind of take inventory of all that has occurred, because it's mind-boggling writing a book, Devil and the Children of God at the End of the World, becoming a #1 Amazon bestseller, launching this podcast. You guys, now we're 26, 27, maybe 28 episodes in. You know my backstory. So you know how unlikely this path would have seemed given my history of it. Again, it's just all the glory to God. One of the things that was most powerful in my transformation led to many, many breakthroughs, many opportunities for closeness to God. It was my commitment to starting the day right, just as my father had always done, and as he had taught me. It was in May or June of last year, 2020, when I began to realize that, my faith journey was evolving. There was an opportunity for something big to happen. I didn't know what, but I recognized that I needed to create some space for it. And a friend of mine had shared with me a book, and it was about the principles of Jesus Christ. And it was in that book where I spent some time reading about how Jesus liked to rise early. And he would often do that so that he could have that solitude with the Father, where he could go into prayer, where he could find clarity, where he could ready himself for all that was lying ahead of him. I was really moved by that. And I recognized that that's a place where I needed to do some work. Sure, I could start the day with that inspirational quote from my father, and I could start the day with some gratitude in mind, but was I really being deliberate and intentional about creating space for God? I wasn't. Something had to change. And so I set my alarm one morning for, I believe the first day was 5:30 a.m. And my intention was to be outside taking a walk at sunrise. I did that, and what I anticipated to be a walk, well, it turned into a jog and then a run. But in it, there was just this beauty of this solitude for prayer, praise, reflection. There was this opportunity to develop a closeness with God, even through the exercise. what I would do is I would put on my AirPods, my headphones, and I would tune into often a sermon from a pastor or two or three that really inspired me, made me feel closer to him. I would listen to a message, and all of these things would begin firing in my brain and my heart that would lead me to breakthroughs. I'd be a couple minutes in and be picking up my phone and dictating a note so that I could refer to it later. It was going to be a piece of content. It was going to be a chapter in a book. It just happened over and over again like that. Sometimes it was triggered by some music that I listened to. I often listened to songs that would ignite my faith. And that moment in the morning, it became very special to me. Getting up early, at first it seemed like a task that I wouldn't be able to handle. I have two little children. We're exhausted most days. How was I going to manage waking up at 5 or 5:30 in the morning to create time for God and for perhaps exercise? Sure, I could do it once, but would I really have the energy to maintain that type of commitment? I'll tell you, God provided the fuel. It was amazing, but stepping forward in that obedience, He just gave me more. I started running further than I ever had in my life. And the distance didn't really matter. It was just, I sort of ran until I was finished with worship. Started to feel better physically, mentally, spiritually. I was just on fire. And I came to really grow excited about rising early because I knew the great power in it. I knew that it revealed healing, it revealed transformation. I liked to sit in those mornings and observe that transition from darkness to light. To me, that was so powerful. I'm sure much like it was to my father when he was out hunting in the woods. Something about seeing God's creation come alive out of the darkness. It reminds you of the born again experience. Because my life for many, many years was just encapsulated by darkness. And then in 2011, when I had my rebirth in faith, it was like God turned on the light. There was a new dawn. And in that new dawn, so much healing, clarity, purpose was revealed. I want to encourage you today. I want to encourage you to begin your day right. You may be in a pattern of the good God morning. You may be feeling the aches and the pains of life. You may be consumed by circumstances beyond your control. You may feel overwhelmed. You may feel discouraged. But you do have a choice. You do have a choice in how you receive the day. And I'm here to tell you that life is a blessing. No matter what's going on around you, the opportunity to get up and have another crack at it, it's a huge blessing. So I invite you to say, "Good morning, God," and receive with open arms the gift of life. Fill your heart with gratitude. Create space for clarity, for prayer, for reflection, for study of the word. Create space and be intentional about getting into relationship with him and making that part of your commitment each and every new morning. The way that you start has a great impact on how things unfold in your day, and how you finish is often a reflection of how you begin. Don't take the morning for granted. My dad, he had this saying when he was coaching us up. And I remember it from football specifically. At the end of practice, we would run sprints. And my dad, I can hear it echoing through my brain anytime that I encounter adversity in life. But he would yell, "Finish strong. Finish strong." See, to my dad, it was often the last sprint that counted most, when many of us were struggling to catch our wind and we were thinking about, turning over and quitting. That was when my dad really saw the opportunity to shine. He believed that that last sprint had just as much value as the first, perhaps even more. And I think that that was just a reflection of what he believed, that how you started had a lot to do with how you would ultimately finish. And he wanted his finish to be a representation of how he started. My dad, at 72 years young, he finished strong. I don't know why God chose to call him home, but I know that my dad has the victory. I know that his ticket in heaven was punched. God revealed that to me. And so I have great peace, a peace that surpasses all understanding. I have that in the midst of this tragedy. And as I shared at his memorial, I believe that perhaps God chose my dad for his heart. He was chosen to fulfill a prominent role up in heaven. I'll miss him. There won't be an hour of any day from now until the end of my life that I won't likely be thinking about him. And I know that his spirit lives on, and I'll stay in communication with him through Jesus Christ and prayer. And I want to hold true to the commitment that he always offered to me. And that was to inspire others to start right with a good morning, God, and finish strong. And the best way that I can do that is to live it in my own life. That's the way that I can ensure that everything that my dad stood for, that it continues to live on through me and through my own children, through all the generations that lie ahead. This is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Celebrate each and every new day. Be intentional about the decisions that you make in your morning. How you start has a big impact on what transpires throughout your day. And it also has a big impact on how you finish. I love you all. God bless.